Captain Marcus Hale had seen many strange things in his life. He had fought in battles across human colonies, survived ambushes on distant planets, and faced alien creatures that no one on Earth believed existed. Yet nothing could have prepared him for the golden light that suddenly enveloped him one quiet evening on his home base in the Andromeda Expanse. One moment he was inspecting the perimeter of the colony, and the next he was standing in a world that seemed to belong to dreams rather than reality. The air shimmered with color, soft blues and purples intertwining as though the sky itself were alive. He blinked and realized he was no longer in the dusty, harsh environment of the human outpost. Instead, he was on a high platform, overlooking a city that floated above a sea of clouds. Towering structures glowed with a soft, internal light, and bridges of pure crystal connected buildings that twisted and spiraled into the sky. The city hummed with life, though everything moved with an elegance Marcus had never seen before. Alien beings moved gracefully around him, some with translucent skin, others with multiple limbs, all dressed in garments that shimmered like the city itself. Marcus straightened instinctively, scanning the surroundings with a soldier's caution. His hand rested near his sidearm, though he knew it might be useless in a place like this. Nothing about this situation made sense. He had received no orders, no message, no warning that he was to be transported here. And yet, the energy of the place seemed calm, not threatening. It was almost as if the city itself had been expecting him. A figure approached, gliding rather than walking. The being was tall, humanoid in shape, but with skin that shifted colors softly, reflecting the lights around them. Their eyes were large, filled with intelligence and warmth, and their voice was musical, yet carried authority. "Welcome, Captain Marcus Hale," the being said, bowing slightly. "We have awaited your arrival." Marcus swallowed. Who are you, and why am I here?" His voice was steady, but his mind raced. There were no humans nearby. Yet someone had chosen him specifically to arrive at this place. It felt like fate. But he was not the type to trust fate blindly. "I am Counselor Zyra of Lumeria," the being replied. "You have been summoned for a matter of great importance. Please, come with me." He hesitated. Summoned? By whom? For what? He glanced around. The city looked peaceful, almost serene. Yet something in the way the other beings observed him told him that this was more than a friendly greeting. It was protocol, tradition, or something even older and more serious. Counselor Zyra simply nodded and gestured toward a long path that led toward a massive palace at the center of the city. Its spires reached into the clouds, glittering in the shifting light. Marcus walked cautiously, every step echoing lightly on the crystalline surface. Around him, alien courtiers and officials moved with fluid grace, some whispering to each other, their heads turning toward him with curious expressions. Though he felt like a stranger in an alien world, he couldn't deny the pull of authority, respect, and even admiration in their gazes. As they approached the palace, Marcus noticed creatures hovering above the ground, their wings like ribbons of energy, watching him silently. It reminded him of battle scouts, but their presence was calm, ceremonial. The path widened into a vast courtyard filled with alien architecture he could hardly comprehend. Bridges curved overhead like ribbons, gardens floated in midair, and fountains released liquid light that fell and vanished before touching the ground. It was beautiful, almost distracting from the tension he felt. Inside the palace, the halls were lined with glowing panels, displaying shifting patterns that Marcus could not interpret. He had fought in countless skirmishes, negotiated ceasefires with hostile alien races, and endured the harshness of interstellar war. Yet here, in this moment, he felt utterly unprepared. He knew he had to stay calm. That was what he did best. Observation, patience, and quick thinking had saved him more times than he could count. "Captain," Counselor Zyra said as they walked through the corridors, "you have been chosen to represent humanity in a sacred union that will unite our species for generations." The words echoed in Marcus's mind, but he didn't understand them fully. A union? Between humans and Lumerians? And what did it mean that he, a soldier, was chosen? He frowned. I think you need to explain that in detail. I don't even know why I'm here, let alone what I'm supposed to do. Zyra's eyes glimmered, as if amused by his straightforwardness. You will understand soon. For now, follow me. They entered a vast chamber that opened onto a terrace overlooking the city. The view was breathtaking. The clouds glowing beneath them, floating islands in the distance, and creatures flying gracefully above the spires. Marcus took a deep breath. His instincts told him to remain cautious, yet he couldn't deny that this world was magnificent. The calm of the city, the elegance of the people, even the light itself, seemed to welcome him. But a soldier's mind could not ignore questions. Why him? Why now? And what exactly did they expect from him? A soft voice interrupted his thoughts. You are Marcus Hale? Yes? He turned to see a figure approaching from another corridor. She moved with an ease that suggested command, her eyes sharp yet warm. She was unlike any human he had ever seen. Her skin shimmered with a golden hue, and her hair seemed to flow with light. I am Princess Elira, she said, bowing slightly but with confidence. I am honored to finally meet you. Marcus blinked, momentarily stunned. Princess? You know who I am? I have known of you for many cycles, she replied. Your reputation precedes you. And soon, you will understand why you are here. The words unsettled him further. He had been summoned, guided through a world he barely understood, and now he was being greeted as someone of importance. Yet no one had explained anything. His mind raced with possibilities. Was this a test? A trap? Or something even stranger? As Elira led him through the palace, Marcus noticed preparations for a ceremony. Intricate decorations, floating lights, and elegant symbols that seemed alive surrounded them. People moved with precision, bowing as he passed. He realized that everyone in the palace treated him not as a visitor, but as someone central to whatever event was approaching. Captain Hale, Zyra said quietly, today, you will take your place in a ceremony that is both sacred and essential to the future of our peoples. You may not understand it yet, but trust that your presence here is crucial. Marcus clenched his fists. A soldier's instinct demanded clarity, action, and understanding. Crucial for what? I don't even know what's happening. If I make a mistake, can it hurt anyone? Zyra gave a small, knowing smile. Only if you allow fear to guide you. Courage and honesty will serve you better than hesitation. He nodded slowly, though unease gnawed at him. Marcus had faced countless dangers, but nothing compared to the uncertainty of this moment. He realized that he would have to rely on his own skills, instincts, and humanity to navigate a world so different from his own. As the day passed, he observed the palace, its people, and its traditions. He noticed the respect given to Elira, the precision of the court, and the subtle ways in which they prepared for him. Whispers followed him. The groom. He heard softly once or twice, but he dismissed them, convinced they referred to someone else. Yet the thought lingered in his mind. Could it be possible that he, Marcus Hale, a soldier from a distant human colony, was the central figure in a ceremony of which he had no prior knowledge? The idea seemed impossible. But as the sun dipped into the glowing clouds, and the palace lights shimmered brighter, Marcus realized that he had no choice but to participate. He was here now. There was no turning back. And whether he understood it fully or not, his actions in the coming hours would define not only his own fate, but the future of two worlds. Marcus Hale, soldier of humanity, had entered a world of elegance, tradition, and mystery. He did not yet know that he was about to become a symbol of unity, a bridge between humans and Lumerians, and perhaps, in the most unexpected way, the groom at a wedding that could change the galaxy forever. And as he gazed across the floating city, with its sparkling lights and serene beauty, Marcus could not help but feel a spark of anticipation. He was ready for battle, ready for challenges, and now, for reasons he did not yet understand, ready to face something entirely new. The ceremony awaited. The eyes of Lumeria were upon him, and somewhere in the soft glow of the palace, Princess Elira waited as well. The first steps of a story neither of them could have imagined yet about to begin. Marcus awoke early, even though the soft light of Lumeria's floating sun barely reached the chamber he had been assigned. The room was unlike anything he had ever seen. Walls that shimmered with a slow-moving glow, furniture that seemed carved from solid crystal, and windows that offered a view of the clouds and islands floating below. For a moment, he simply stood by the window, taking it all in. He had been a soldier, trained to survive chaos, to navigate danger, and to act decisively. Yet here, in this world of elegance and mystery, Marcus felt a strange uncertainty he had never known. Breakfast arrived silently. A servant hovered nearby, offering a tray of unfamiliar foods that glowed faintly, each item seemingly alive with energy. Marcus took a cautious bite, noting the flavors were sharp, yet pleasantly sweet. As he ate, he heard footsteps approaching. Turning, he saw Princess Elira entering the room, dressed not in ceremonial robes, but in simpler garments that emphasized her confidence and poise. "Good morning, Captain Hale," she said, her voice calm but commanding. "I trust you slept well?" Marcus straightened. "I did. This world. It's hard to process, though. And I'm still not sure why I'm here." Elira smiled faintly. "By the end of the day, you will understand. But first, we must prepare. There is much for you to learn about my people, our traditions, and the role you are about to play." Marcus frowned. "I've heard whispers, the Groom," they said. "Is that true? Am I supposed to be married?" Elira nodded. "Yes. It may come as a surprise. Many cycles ago, your leaders and mine agreed to unite our peoples through marriage. The alliance would ensure peace, prevent war, and build trust between humans and Lumarians. The details were kept secret until the moment you arrived because the transition had to be smooth and without interference. I apologize that you were not informed beforehand." Marcus's mind raced. I didn't know. I never signed any agreement. I never—" He stopped, taking a deep breath. "All right. If this is important for peace, I'll do my part. But I need to understand your people, your customs, and you, Elira. This isn't just a ceremony. It's an alliance. I can't afford to make mistakes." Elira nodded approvingly. "You have courage, Marcus Hale. That is why you were chosen. Let us begin." The day unfolded with careful instruction. Marcus was guided through the ceremonial steps, taught the language of Lumerian gestures, and instructed in etiquette that felt both formal and graceful. Elira remained by his side, correcting his posture or pronunciation, but always with a patience that Marcus found unusual for someone of her rank. As they walked through the palace gardens, floating above the clouds, Marcus asked questions. "Your people. You have incredible technology. Floating cities, energy bridges, weapons far beyond ours. And yet, you still value ceremony, tradition, and marriage as a political tool?" Elira's eyes softened. "Yes. Technology can create power, but it cannot replace trust. Ceremonies remind us of our obligations, our connections, and our responsibilities. A pact sealed in tradition is harder to break than one written on paper." Marcus nodded thoughtfully. "In human terms, we have treaties and agreements. But we've lost too many of them because people forget why they matter. I can understand this. You are pragmatic, but also wise." The princess allowed herself a small smile. "And you, Captain, are brave, direct, and honest. These qualities are rare, and they complement what our leaders sought. You are more than just a soldier. You represent the strength and integrity of your people." The lessons continued, but tension built as Marcus began to understand the gravity of his role. Courtiers watched him closely, some whispering in a language he did not understand, their expressions curious or skeptical. He realized quickly that any mistake, any misstep, could have political consequences far beyond himself. He was no longer just Marcus Hale, a soldier. He had become a symbol of humanity. By midday, Elira suggested they step into the training chamber. Part of our ceremony requires demonstration of skill and respect. You will show your ability to protect, to adapt, and to honor our traditions. Marcus followed her into a large, open space. Walls glowing faintly with shifting symbols. Floating platforms hovered above the ground, and a soft, artificial breeze circulated. Elira handed him a weapon unfamiliar in design, a staff that pulsed with energy and seemed alive in his hands. "This is a traditional weapon," she explained. "You will learn to use it as both a tool and a symbol. Your adaptability will be tested, but I trust you can rise to the challenge." Marcus flexed his grip. "I've trained with many weapons, none like this, but I can adapt." Elira nodded and demonstrated a sequence of moves, strikes, parries, and spins that flowed like dance. Marcus watched carefully, memorizing the motions. When it was his turn, he stepped forward. At first, his movements were clumsy. His human instincts slower than the elegant precision of Lumerian combat. Yet he did not give up. He adapted, finding rhythm in the energy of the staff, moving with the same determination that had kept him alive on battlefields across the galaxy. By the end of the session, Marcus had gained not only skill but respect. Elira's eyes showed approval, and the observing courtiers whispered among themselves, impressed by the human's ability to learn quickly and perform under pressure. Marcus felt a surge of pride. Despite his ignorance of the culture, despite the confusion and fear, his humanity, courage, perseverance, and determination had won him recognition. After training, Marcus and Elira sat in the palace garden. Clouds drifted below them, and the floating islands shimmered in the soft light. Marcus looked at her and asked, "Elira, do you trust me?" She regarded him carefully. "I do. Not because you are human, but because you act with integrity. That is rare. Many would follow orders blindly. You question. You think. You act with purpose. That is what makes you worthy of this role." Marcus considered her words. He realized then that trust was not given lightly in Lumeria. It was earned, and he had begun to earn it. Not through rank, wealth, or ceremony, but through actions. His human traits, judgment, courage, and moral clarity mattered more than he could have imagined. Evening fell, and the palace prepared for the arrival of other dignitaries. Marcus noticed subtle tension in the air. Some Lumerians seemed curious, others cautious. He understood the stakes clearly. Any misstep tonight could insult the princess, undermine the ceremony, or even threaten the fragile alliance between humans and Lumerians. The weight of responsibility settled on him. Elira approached him as the first guests arrived. "Marcus, you are ready. Remember, this is not just a ceremony. It is a demonstration of unity, of trust, and of the potential of our peoples together. Your actions tonight will speak louder than words." Marcus nodded. "I understand, and I will do my best. Humanity may be young, but we fight with heart, with intelligence, and with determination. I will show them that we are worthy allies." As the chamber filled with elegant beings, Marcus felt the curious gazes turn toward him. He noticed their advanced attire, their intricate decorations, and the way they observed him with both expectation and respect. The whispers of "the Groom" grew louder, though Marcus still refused to fully acknowledge them. He needed to focus, to learn, and to act. Fear would serve him nothing here. The first part of the ceremony began. Music, unlike anything Marcus had heard, a mix of harmonious tones and resonating energy filled the chamber. Elira moved gracefully to her place, and Marcus followed the instructions he had learned. Every step, every gesture mattered. Mistakes were not allowed. Yet Marcus found that his instincts as a soldier, his ability to adapt under pressure, guided him. He moved with purpose, his actions deliberate yet flexible, earning nods from the observing council. Through it all, He began to understand the meaning behind the words Alira had spoken that morning. This was more than a wedding. It was a test of humanity itself, of courage, adaptability, and honor in the face of the unknown. Marcus realized that his presence, his choices, and his willingness to embrace this alien world could define how humans were seen across the stars. When the first ritual ended, Alira approached him, placing a hand lightly on his arm. "You are performing well, not because you follow our ways perfectly, but because you bring yourself into them. That is what makes you strong." Marcus met her gaze. "I've faced alien worlds before. I've survived conflicts and hardships that would break others. But this is different. Here, it's not just survival. It's understanding, trust, and honor. And I want to do right by you, by your people, and by mine." Alira smiled. "And that is why you were chosen. Not just for skill, but for heart." The day ended with Marcus feeling both exhausted and exhilarated. He had begun to understand the depth of Lumerian culture, the stakes of the ceremony, and the responsibilities that rested upon him. More importantly, he had realized that his humanity, courage, intelligence, and moral clarity was not a weakness in this world. It was his greatest strength. As night fell, the palace shimmered with 1,000 lights, reflecting in the floating pools and along the crystalline pathways. Marcus stood on a balcony, looking over the city. He thought of the battles he had fought, the dangers he had faced, and the unknown that lay ahead. Yet, for the first time in a long while, he felt a strange sense of belonging. He was no longer just a soldier from a distant colony. He was a bridge between worlds, a symbol of unity, and soon, he would discover the final truth that awaited him, the role he was truly destined to play in this extraordinary story. The morning light on Lumeria was soft and warm, painting the floating city in hues of gold and lavender. Marcus Hale awoke with a sense of determination. Yesterday had been overwhelming, a whirlwind of lessons, gestures, and alien customs. Yet, as he looked out over the glowing clouds below, he felt more in control, more prepared. Still, a knot of unease lingered in his stomach. He had sensed, through whispers and the subtle reactions of the court, that something significant awaited him. He just did not yet know the truth. He was not left to ponder long. Soon, a servant appeared, bowing slightly as it approached him with a tray. "Captain Hale, the princess requests your presence in the central chamber," it said in a melodic tone. Marcus set the tray aside and followed, stepping carefully through the corridors of the palace. The walls shimmered gently, a constant reminder that he was in a place far different from any human world. As he entered the central chamber, he saw Princess Alira waiting. She stood at the center of a platform, her posture regal, her eyes sharp yet welcoming. Around her, alien officials were arranging ceremonial symbols, floating lights forming delicate patterns in the air. Marcus noticed the intensity in their gazes. This was no ordinary day, no casual welcome for a guest. Something important was about to happen. "Captain Hale," Alira said, her voice calm but commanding. "Today, you will learn your true role. What you have seen and experienced so far has prepared you for this moment." Marcus's brows furrowed. "My role? You mean the ceremony?" Alira nodded. "Yes. But more than that. You are not just a guest or observer. You are the groom." Marcus froze. The words hit him like a shockwave. The groom?" he stammered. "That can't be right. I wasn't told." Alira approached him, placing a steady hand on his arm. "I understand your surprise. The agreement was made generations ago, between your leaders and mine. It was kept secret to ensure the alliance would remain unbroken until the moment arrived. You were chosen because of your courage, adaptability, and honor. You are exactly the person our peoples need to represent humanity." Marcus stepped back slightly, trying to absorb the revelation. He had come to Lumeria thinking he was a guest, perhaps a diplomat or soldier asked to observe, but not the central figure in a sacred union between worlds. I've never met you before," How am I supposed to? He paused, taking a deep breath. All right. If this is what needs to be done to secure peace, I will accept it. But I need to understand your people, your traditions, and you. I can't fail. Illyra smiled faintly. And you will not fail. Your humanity, your courage, judgment, and integrity will guide you. We will face this together. The chamber was soon filled with observers, Lumerian officials, diplomats, and dignitaries from across the galaxy, all awaiting the beginning of the ceremony. Marcus felt the weight of expectations settle heavily on his shoulders. He realized fully that this was not just about him and Illyra. Every gesture, every step, and every decision he made could affect the fragile alliance between humans and Lumerians. The first part of the ceremony began with music, unlike anything Marcus had ever heard. It was soft, resonant, and flowing, seeming to move through the very air and touch the mind directly. Illyra guided him through a series of steps, teaching him gestures that conveyed respect, honor, and commitment. Marcus learned quickly, relying on his ability to observe, adapt, and act with precision. Each movement felt foreign at first. Yet he realized that his human instincts, his awareness, focus, and discipline allowed him to perform with a fluidity that even impressed the Lumerians around him. As the ceremony progressed, Marcus began to notice small tests woven into the rituals. A slight imbalance of the floating platforms, a subtle shift in the energy of the lights, and a sudden movement from the observing council required him to respond quickly, without hesitation. Each time, he adapted, using not just the skills Illyra had taught him, but his own experience as a soldier. His decisions were deliberate, grounded in logic, courage, and a clear understanding of right and wrong. Illyra observed him closely, her expression unreadable but thoughtful. "You are learning quickly," she said quietly during a brief pause. "But remember, it is not just skill that matters, it is your intention, your heart. Humanity has something that technology cannot replicate: empathy, resilience, and the ability to inspire trust." Marcus considered her words. In all his years of military service, he had faced enemies with advanced weapons, brutal terrain, and overwhelming odds. Yet here, in this ceremony, he realized that his strength did not lie in combat alone. It lay in his ability to connect, to make decisions guided by principle, and to act with courage even when he did not fully understand the situation. His humanity, often overlooked in a galaxy of advanced species, was now his greatest advantage. Midway through the morning, a minor crisis occurred. A ceremonial energy panel, which controlled the floating platforms, began to malfunction. The platforms wavered, threatening to throw off the alignment of the ritual. Gasps echoed through the chamber. Marcus's eyes scanned the situation. He had no formal training in Lumerian technology, but he could see the pattern of the energy flows and deduced a method to stabilize it. With precise movements and quick thinking, he adjusted the panels manually, restoring balance just as the council began to murmur in concern. A wave of quiet approval passed through the room. Illyra's eyes shone with admiration. "Well done, Marcus. You have not only preserved the ritual, but you have also demonstrated the very qualities that make you worthy of this role." Marcus nodded, feeling a mixture of pride and relief. He realized that his human traits, intuition, adaptability, and moral clarity were not weaknesses in this advanced society. They were assets. They allowed him to bridge the gap between two worlds, to act decisively when the unfamiliar threatened, and to gain the trust of beings who had watched him skeptically only hours before. As the ceremony continued, Marcus and Illyra moved closer together, performing synchronized rituals that required trust and awareness of each other's intentions. Marcus was careful, deliberate, and observant, while Illyra provided guidance and subtle corrections. With each step, each gesture, a bond formed between them, not born of romance alone, but of mutual respect, understanding, and shared responsibility. After the initial rituals were completed, Illyra led Marcus to a quiet garden within the palace. Floating lights shimmered around them, casting a soft glow over the crystalline flora. "Marcus," she said, You have done well. You have demonstrated skill, courage, and wisdom. But there is one more aspect you must understand: the deeper connection that unites this union. It is not just political. It is symbolic. We trust each other, and through that trust, our peoples can build a future together. Marcus considered her words. I understand that this is bigger than me, bigger than both of us, and I want to do right by that. But I also want to understand you, Alira, not just as a princess, but as a person. We have little time, and yet everything depends on how we act together. Alira studied him thoughtfully. And that is why you were chosen. Not because of titles or skill alone, but because you are human. You face challenges with heart and reason, not just power. That is what makes this union possible. As the afternoon passed, Marcus and Alira engaged in more complex rituals, demonstrations of strategy, problem-solving, and cooperation. They faced simulated threats, navigating obstacles that tested both intellect and intuition. Marcus's human experience in unpredictable environments proved invaluable. He made quick decisions, considered both immediate consequences and long-term impact, and adapted seamlessly to Alira's guidance. The observing council, initially wary, now watched with admiration. Whispers of the Groom had shifted in tone. Where there had been curiosity, there was now respect. Where there had been doubt, there was now recognition. Marcus realized that his presence, his decisions, and his actions were shaping the perception of humanity across the galaxy. As evening approached, Marcus and Alira stood on a balcony overlooking the city. The floating lights of Lumeria glimmered like stars scattered across a sea of clouds. Marcus reflected on the day, the revelations, the tests, the challenges, and the small victories. He had begun to understand not just the culture of Lumeria, but the significance of his role. He was no longer merely a soldier or a guest. He was the Groom, a symbol of unity and a bridge between worlds. Alira stood beside him, her gaze on the horizon. Tomorrow, the ceremony will be complete. You have done everything required to honor your role. But remember, Marcus, this is not the end. It is only the beginning. How we act, how we lead, and how we trust each other will determine the future of both our peoples. Marcus nodded, feeling a sense of purpose he had never experienced. I understand, and I am ready. Whatever comes next, I will face it with courage, honor, and humanity. As the night deepened, the city below shimmered with anticipation. Marcus realized that the true test was not in skill or knowledge alone, but in character. And in that, he knew he had already begun to prove himself, not as an alien guest, not as a soldier alone, but as a human capable of shaping history, bridging worlds, and honoring a bond that had been formed long before he ever arrived on Lumeria. The stars above the floating city gleamed, reflecting the promise of tomorrow. Marcus Hale, the human soldier who had arrived unaware of his destiny, was no longer uncertain. He understood the gravity of his role, the strength of his humanity, and the potential of what could be achieved when courage, honor, and empathy guided one's actions. The final ceremony approached. The council was ready. Alira was ready, and Marcus, the Groom, the human, the symbol of hope, was ready to embrace his destiny, not with fear, but with unwavering resolve. The day of the ceremony dawned over Lumeria, the floating city bathed in a soft golden light that seemed to bless the entire world. Marcus Hale awoke with a sense of anticipation that surpassed even the most intense moments of battle he had ever faced. Today was not a battlefield of weapons or strategy. It was a battlefield of trust, honor, and the weight of history. Yet, for the first time, he felt ready. The palace corridors were alive with activity. Servants and officials moved with precision, ensuring every detail of the ceremony was perfect. Marcus observed calmly, noting the subtle ways the courtiers prepared the environment, floating lights arranging themselves into intricate patterns, symbols of unity glowing above the ceremonial platform. He took a deep breath, feeling the significance of each action. Every movement mattered. Every gesture would be observed, remembered, and interpreted by beings from across the galaxy. Princess Alira approached him, her robes flowing like liquid light, and her presence commanding yet reassuring. "Marcus," she said softly, "today you are not just a soldier or a guest. Today, you represent humanity. How you act, how you carry yourself, and how you honor this bond will echo through our worlds for generations. Remember your training, trust yourself, and let your heart guide your actions." Marcus nodded, feeling a mixture of nerves and resolve. "I understand. I've learned much from you, Elira, and I will honor your people, our bond, and my own. Humanity may be young, but we have courage, wisdom, and resilience. I will show it today." The guests began to arrive. Delegates from various star systems filled the chamber, their eyes turning to Marcus as whispers rippled through the audience. Some wore elaborate garments. Others carried symbols of power. But all seemed intrigued by this human, a soldier who had come unprepared, yet now stood at the center of an interstellar alliance. Marcus felt their gaze, but instead of fear, he drew confidence from it. He had survived countless battles, faced unknown creatures, and endured situations far more dangerous than the judgment of an alien audience. The ceremony began with the soft, resonant music of Lumeria, filling the chamber with tones that seemed to vibrate within the very soul. Marcus followed Elira's lead, performing gestures and steps that symbolized respect, commitment, and unity. At first, the motions felt delicate and unfamiliar. But Marcus moved with focus and precision, remembering her teachings and applying his own instincts. Each action spoke not only of compliance, but of integrity. He was not imitating, but embodying the principles behind the ritual. As the ceremony progressed, a sudden shift in the energy of the platform caught Marcus's attention. One of the floating panels wavered, threatening to destabilize the stage. Gasps echoed from the audience. Instinctively, Marcus moved to adjust the platform manually. He studied the energy flows, understood the patterns, and used both observation and decisive action to restore stability. The platform steadied, and the murmurs of concern turned into murmurs of admiration. Elira's eyes met his, shining with approval. "Well done, Marcus. You act not only with skill but with responsibility. That is the heart of this union." The rituals continued, each more complex than the last. Marcus had to coordinate movements with Elira, balance his own gestures with the shifting platforms, and respond to subtle cues from the observing council. It was a test of mental acuity, agility, and character. Marcus relied on his human strengths, quick decision-making, adaptability, and moral clarity to navigate each challenge successfully. During a particularly intricate sequence, a ceremonial energy barrier began to flicker dangerously. If it failed, it could endanger the participants and disrupt the entire ceremony. Marcus assessed the situation, acting swiftly to stabilize the energy currents. The barrier hummed steadily once more, and the council exchanged looks of approval. Marcus realized in that moment that human ingenuity, observation, reasoning, and courageous action could rival even the most advanced technology of Lumeria. As the final ritual approached, Marcus and Elira stood together on the highest platform, surrounded by floating lights and the soft glow of the city below. The audience held its collective breath. Elira placed her hand gently on his arm, a subtle reminder that they were not alone, that trust and cooperation guided them. Marcus took a deep breath, centering himself, understanding that this was more than ceremony. It was the embodiment of unity, of hope, and of human potential. The final moments of the ritual required Marcus to speak words of commitment and understanding, not in Lumerian alone, but in a combination of their languages. Each phrase had to reflect sincerity, respect, and the principles behind the alliance. Marcus drew upon his experiences as a soldier and a human understanding responsibility, facing fear, and acting with courage. His voice rang clear, steady, and true. "I stand here, not only as Marcus Hale, a human soldier, but as a representative of my people. I vow to honor this union, to respect your traditions, and to act with courage and integrity. May this bond strengthen the future of our worlds together." A murmur of approval rippled through the crowd. Elira repeated her words, her tone graceful and confident. As they exchanged symbolic tokens, the lights of the chamber brightened, and a sense of harmony swept through the audience. It was clear that Marcus had earned the trust and admiration of those present, not through titles, not through birthright, but through actions and character, human qualities that transcended species and technology. Even as the formal ceremony concluded, challenges arose. A faction opposed to the human-Lumerian alliance attempted subtle sabotage, interfering with the ceremonial energy flows to create chaos. Instantly, Marcus assessed the situation, coordinated with Elira, and used a combination of quick thinking and human ingenuity to neutralize the disruption. His decisiveness prevented harm and ensured the integrity of the union. The audience, once tense, erupted into quiet appreciation. Humanity had proven its worth. Afterward, Marcus and Elira walked through the palace garden together. Floating flowers shimmered in gentle patterns, and the soft light reflected their accomplishments. "Marcus," Elira said, "you have done more than fulfill a role. You have demonstrated that humanity is strong, adaptable, and capable of great honor. Your actions today will be remembered by my people for generations." Marcus smiled, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. "I've fought in wars, faced countless dangers, and survived situations that seemed impossible. But this was different. Here, it wasn't just about strength, it was about trust, understanding, and honor. And I've realized that our humanity, courage, empathy, and reason can create bridges that no weapon ever could." Elira nodded. "Exactly. And now, our peoples can look forward to a future built on that trust. Together, we will achieve what no single species could accomplish alone." The celebration continued into the evening. Delegates and dignitaries from across the galaxy shared in the joy, witnessing the bond between human and Lumerian solidified. Music filled the air, lights shimmered in the floating gardens, and Marcus moved among the guests with confidence. His presence, a living testament to human ingenuity and honor. Throughout the event, Marcus reflected on how far he had come. When he had first arrived, he had been confused, unsure, and unaware of his destiny. Now, he stood as a symbol of unity, demonstrating that humans could not only survive in a galaxy of advanced species, but could thrive, inspire trust, and lead through courage and moral clarity. As night fell, Marcus and Elira stood on a high balcony, overlooking the city below. Stars glittered in the sky, and the floating islands glimmered with energy, reflecting the harmony and hope that had been achieved. Marcus placed a hand on Elira's shoulder. "We did it. Not just for ourselves, but for our peoples. And I've learned something important. Humanity's strength is not in technology alone, but in heart, determination, and the will to do what is right." Elira smiled. "And that is why you were chosen, Marcus. You have shown that courage, wisdom, and humanity can shape the course of history. Together, we will continue to build a future where trust and unity guide our worlds." Marcus looked out at the glowing city, feeling a sense of purpose he had never known. He was no longer just a soldier or a visitor. He was a groom, a symbol, a representative of humanity, and a bridge between worlds. His actions, guided by principle and heart, had earned respect, forged alliances, and demonstrated that even in a galaxy of advanced civilizations, the human spirit could shine brightly. The night was calm, the floating city serene. Marcus and Elira knew that challenges would come, as they always did, in a galaxy of complex alliances and advanced civilizations. Yet they were prepared, guided by mutual trust, shared understanding, and the recognition that courage, honor, and humanity could overcome obstacles greater than any weapon or technology. As they watched the stars, Marcus felt a profound sense of satisfaction. He had entered Lumeria unaware of his destiny, yet through adaptability, courage, and moral clarity, he had fulfilled his role with honor. Humanity had proven itself, not through conquest or power, but through integrity, ingenuity, and the willingness to act with both wisdom and heart. The ceremony was complete. The alliance was strengthened, and Marcus Hale, the human soldier, had earned his place not just beside the princess, but in the history of two worlds united by courage, trust, and the enduring power of the human spirit. In that moment, he understood fully what Elira had meant when she spoke of heart and humanity. It was not just survival, not just skill, not just strength, it was the ability to act rightly, to inspire trust, and to face the unknown with unwavering resolve. And in that, Marcus realized, humans had a power that no technology or tradition could match. The city glowed beneath them. The stars shone above, and humanity's light through Marcus Hale had become a beacon of hope for all who witnessed it.